This is the Emotional Horsemanship podcast. I am your host, Lockie Phillips. Emotional Horsemanship coaches deeply caring horse people to train emotionally balanced horses with science, empathy, and feel. We innovate horse training that puts the horse before the horse person. Season 2 of this podcast will bring you solo episodes, special guests, and small groups of guests as we discuss horses, horse training, the equestrian industry, and the big, bold, beautiful ideas horses inspire in all of us to breathe in and breathe out. My guest today is my friend, my colleague, Kristy Foley. If you've met me in person, you've probably heard me speaking about Kristy Foley. If you are a student of ours, then you already know who Kristy is. But for those of you who don't know, well, frankly, she's on my team. Not just mentally and emotionally and spiritually, but practically. She helps me with my students, with my community, delivering absolutely unique services that I've never quite seen anywhere. All I know is that she helps people, and she's really good at what she does. And so, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Kristy Foley. Kristy Foley, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Morning, Lockie. Well, it's morning in my neck of the sea. Over the ocean.
I think I live with some sort of constant jet lag with the amount of the time zone traveling that we do.
Yes.
So it could be morning, evening. I don't know. It's all time.
It is.
Okay. So I'm so excited to have you here because I've been teasing people who aren't already inside of our, let's say, inner circles. But we work together. Yes. Emotional horsemanship is not Lockie Phillips only. It's now a team. And the team that we have, you were the first to step in. Happened very naturally. And so I'm very excited to start the guests of season 2 with you because last year we were in beta. We'll always be in beta, but
yes,
now I'm really, really confident and comfortable to say I work with you. Really confident and comfortable to say that. So Kristy Foley, who are you? What do you do? And how do you do it?
I know, right? So I'm pretty consciously aware when I choose the words to describe myself because I truly feel we are all here as beings on earth. And so first and foremost, I am being my best being on earth that I possibly can be while we navigate through different experiences that our life brings. So I'm careful not to put myself in a descriptive category that might be limiting. So some of the things that I experience are first and foremost having a beautiful husband, Kevin, and I would not be here today without his support. He's the rock.
We love Kevin.
We do. Everybody does. You have to.
Yes.
It's just amazing. And then above that, of course, then Kevin and I created a family. So I also am in the role of being an amazing, very fortunate to have an amazing family with diverse children. So I'm also experiencing being a mother. And then I love to teach and help and be part of communities. So there's such vastness in describing who are you and what do you do? I'm here experiencing Earth and navigating that as best I can. And honestly, I'm here to pump up the community, to say that there are many energetic waves or churning forces that can come into our life, but you have to look at it like the tides on the shore and grab your surfboard and surf it as best you can here on planet Earth.
And that tells us exactly who you are. You categorize in a non-limiting category because your category is by its nature about expansion and about not limits but limitlessness. But that doesn't mean chaos. That doesn't mean want and abandon. In fact, I've experienced you bring control's not the right word. Command isn't the right word. There's almost no word for it, but you bring a flavor of discernment to everything that you do that facilitates expansion, but never loses sight of exactly who you are, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and navigating where you're going.
Perhaps maybe congruent.
Congruent, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Being congruent with my soul essence.
Mm-hmm.
What energies did I bring to the planet? Because we are each here as unique beings, describing us like right now in our neck of northern New England, we had a snowstorm. So snowflakes are on my brain today, and everybody is like this unique crystalline snowflake.
Mm-hmm.
Each have different patterns. And when we mold together and mesh together, we can create a beautiful snowman.
Mm.
Or, if temperatures get heated, we can melt.
Mm.
So there is a level of congruence that I choose to bring into my life. And that has been, I feel, from the very beginning, but I may not have been confident enough to know that, I really should be following that congruency.
Mm.
It's okay to step into where your heart is showing you to go.
So how did we meet? Are you going to tell it or am I going to tell it? Let's both tell it together.
Let's
You
both
start.
Tell it, right?
You start though. How did we meet?
Yes. Yeah. We first met through some stepping stones on my side in life, in the horse world. And you were the bright light that showed me that, okay, I made some brave decisions. And if I hadn't made those brave decisions, I don't know if our ships would have, they would have just kept passing in the night.
Mm.
So I ended up reaching out to a friend who I had met years prior at a boarding barn. She had moved to her dream location with her husband and at the time their young daughter. And I had asked, do you have space? Because I need to find a location that resonates with how horses should be integrated in the world. Because my path so far, although I learned a lot, met some beautiful people, the style wasn't resonating with me. Mm-hmm. So she opened up her home. They weren't yet taking on boarders or board and train, but she had 2 off-the-track thoroughbreds who were lovely. And our horse went in to be the third to help teach them a few things. And then down the road, she ended up hosting you at your first clinic tour in America. Right. And that's how we met.
Right.
And it was amazing as far as I felt like we were where we supposed to be. Not ego-based at all, but I was shocked because we were in the arena where I would have space with our horse daily because we lived there, for the farm, boarding. But I was practicing during the clinic and you actually pointed myself and our horse Kid out. Look at them. They're doing solar plexus draw. And I was like, oh my God, somebody actually is saying that I'm doing something appropriate with my horse. And then the beauty was to see all the people that came and to watch the horses, because the setup of that arena was we could put the horses to rest, which was another amazing quality that I loved about you, was how you actually integrated teaching, always putting the horse first, having pauses, having just about an hour and a half, and then we break for a 2-hour lunch, which drove some people crazy, perhaps. I'm not sure, but that is my lifestyle. I put in the pauses. So to me, that was cool because you have time to engage and build community. Mm-hmm. And the horses see that and feel that. They knew that we were having our pause and they were having their pause. And then in the afternoon, when it began for the second half of the session, one horse at a time was in the arena with you, but all the others, because of the setup of that location, were watching. And they could have been off eating, but they were at the gate, just, syncing up all of this information and all of how the humans and the horses were interacting. It was amazing. And then after that, I was fortunate enough to be brave again, invested in a pivo, and began weekly sessions with you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really think that anything that I was incorporating with our horse Kid was different or unique. but you started to help me see that no, you're doing some things different here. There's a connection that you have here, which I've always had with him, but I thought others had it too. And then I was a student, still taking every course you offered. And I am still a student, and we're very vocal about that in Emotional Horsemanship, because I am a first-generation horse person with my 2 girls. My husband actually saw our horse first and told our youngest at the time, there's a beautiful horse for sale down the end of the barn. And that's how it all began. So I'm still very humble in my physical journey with the horse, but a dedicated, passionate seeker and student to learn as much as I can. And I bring all of my life energetic skills to that.
I remember flying into Boston. I had just finished a clinic in California and then a clinic in Colorado. And at my first tour, I went 2-day clinic, fly the next day, 2-day clinic, fly the next day. So 0 pause. And that's just how my life was working at the time. And there was no other option because I had to get home. And by the time I arrived in New Hampshire and I landed in Boston, I had no voice. I think I had COVID, actually, at the time. I had some sort of infection. When I was flying, I made a point not to speak through the airport and through transit because I was resting my voice because my voice was gone. The vocal register I had lost was the good job. That one was gone. All I had was like down here. And I sounded very sexy and very husky and very worldly. But the fact was I was sick and exhausted. And some people thought that was wisdom or whatever, or relaxation. It was just sick and exhausted. Oh, no, because I had also, and then straight after New Hampshire, I went to Idaho. So I was relentless. That tour was relentless. And at that stage, I had this hyper independence issue. So I was a one-man band and I would hire my own cars and stay in my own hotels and handle all my own travel. And I didn't let my hosts do any of that organizing because it didn't occur to me that there would be a community. It didn't occur to me. Right. And I got out of the car at our beautiful, beautiful host's gorgeous farm. And the first person I bumped into after her was you. And I'd mentioned that I'd stopped on my way through at Salem to see what was there. And do you remember what you said?
I said something like you were very brave and you brought most of it back with you.
Yes. And then you said something like, I've been clearing that energy since I knew you were going there. I've been clearing that energy for you all day. And I just tilted my head to one side and I thought, Christy's not the same as everyone else. And I went, fascinating. And then at the clinic, it was I enjoyed myself and I didn't have a microphone, but it was a very quiet environment and there were trees and the trees were bouncing my voice back. So most people managed to hear me most of the time. And watching you with Kid, there was just a quality that was different there. Whether you're a first-generation horse person or you've got an advanced physical skill set or not, there was a quality of feel there that was not a beginner. There was a quality of feel there that was not first generation. There was a quality of feel there, in my opinion, that sort of transcended what was right here, right now. And I knew that. And I thought, yes, needs mentorship, needs support, deserves support, but also support that understands you, respects you, and gives you room to grow the way you grow and not try to put a square peg round hole. And so when you, to my delight, signed up for regular sessions, I was doing a high volume of sessions at that time. And I would go from, client to client to client with my computer and then go out to the horses. And most sessions would sort of fit a similar mold. But when it was a Christy session, I was just like, everyone clear the desk because this is something else. It's just something else that we're doing here. And initially it was so different that I thought, is this bad? Is this good? I don't know. That's how emotion works, right? When it's a prediction error, we go, I don't know. So what does this mean? And then I stopped myself for a second and I paused. just like how I do 2 hours on, 2 hours off at the clinics, 2 hours on, right? I paused and I thought, well, our industry is changing like we've never seen it change. The horse society in human society is changing in ways we've never seen it change before in human history. And so we need not only new methods, not only new approaches to teaching, but I think we need entirely different services. I think we need not only entirely different services, but a whole new category needs to be opened in the minds of horse people. Under the broad category of horses, there's trainer, farrier, hoof care provider, body worker, animal communicator even. There are all those categories. I think not enough. We need another category that is this exponentially expanding category that we haven't seen before. We need to start allowing landing pads for horse people who are profoundly responsible and beautiful stewards of horses and safe homes for the abundance of horses that don't have an abundance of safe homes. We need to create landing pads for all of you to be exactly who you are and not even a hint of a degree of who you are not. And so working with you, I remember the moment I said to you, Christy, would it be a fair statement to say that you are, forgive me, energetically gifted? And
Yes.
you said,
I feel I said yes.
you went, oh, yes. Like that. You went, oh, yes. Yes. I went, okay. I said, something along the lines of, do I have your permission to shift this session and maybe even the sessions that follow into something else entirely? Forget horsemanship in this moment. Can we shift this into something new? And you went, of course.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Somebody that was willing to have so much trust in dabbling into my language.
Yes.
While at the same time holding a safety net for the horse.
For the
with
horse.
Your horse skill.
Right.
Yes.
And so I thought this is going to be an interesting collaboration. So I took a pause and I took a breath and I closed my eyes and I said something to my animal body, to my higher self. I said something internally that said, release any prior notions of what this has to be, look like, and function like. Release all of it. I'm now an alien looking at this for the first time. What do you see? And I opened my eyes and I just went, Christy, left hip or something, a body part. Left hip. And you went, And you looked at the left hip. And as you looked at the left hip, kid would give us, your horse would give us some sort of sign of recognition. And I went, okay, good. Tick, good. Next.
Yes.
And then I went, took a breath, closed my eyes, and I surrendered. And then I looked at you guys again. I said, it's moved. Base of the neck, 2 inches up from that point there. No, not that hair whirl, up there. And then when you would look at it or even touch it, or even touch the air next to it, he would give us a sign of response. And often he would give us huge signs of response, not even subtle ones. And then often it was subtle. And sometimes we would touch, there would be nothing. And on we went. And my jaw's on the floor. I've lost all concept of time. And I'm watching you. And then the next session the same. And then the next session the same. And then the next session the same. And then, you move Barnes. And then I remember a moment when shortly after you would move Barnes, when he was adjusting, we got to a point where we were working on movement and you were raising and lowering his front end carriage.
Yes.
Without any aids discernible, without nothing physically. You would just go and his head would come up and I'd say, okay, Christy, now bring his head down and stretch. And you would go and he would stretch. And it was a repeatable pattern that we were relying on. And it was just like dominoes. When we were in a regular pattern, it was just delivering. And I'm like, something's going on.
Well, and see, I thought that's how the rest of the world operated. So I was like, what is the big deal with Lockie here today? I'm thrilled that we're doing well, but isn't this how it unfolds?
No. And I really don't want to be, because I know you've got a supremely good emotional health. So I know none of this is blowing up your ego. I'm just stating plain facts, guys who are listening. I'm just stating facts of how what our track record is, you and I together. And some of these sessions we have recorded and published in Homecoming 1, for example. Not all of them. We've got, I think, 1 or 2 recorded in Homecoming 1. And Kid sort of evolved. He's moved into a new era of his life at this time. But when I launched Homecoming 1, which was the intermediate groundwork course, and you were there as a student, it would have been in the first or second session. You asked a question, and before I offered an answer, I just went, okay, everyone stop. I said, it is my joy and pleasure to be teaching in community for the first time, because it's usually been private or clinics, but to be teaching online to a large community for the first time. It was 84 people in that first course. It is my joy and pleasure for everybody to meet this human being, Kristy Foley, because I'm telling you, she's got something that I don't even understand, and even I've continued to have skepticism about, but all I know is what I'm seeing every time I see it. And I'd like you all to meet her and hear, not only hear what she has to say, but to really receive. And God bless the community that they trusted my voice, because they believed me and they believed you. And then what happened, Kristy? And then what happened?
And that I started assisting the community. Absolutely. In beta, as we say.
Beta, meaning it's never finished yet.
And maybe I should step back a little bit.
Go.
For people to understand, how am I assisting?
Right.
So we're going to go, if it's okay with you, and you can pause if you'd like to go in a different direction, of course. But as I say, our stones in life that we step on bring us to where we are today. So I first shared that my experience as a mom is delightful. To be honorable and respecting privacy within my family, we come with dynamic makeup within our household. So we are within the special ed spectrum for a few of our kiddos. And on that journey, I was an advocate. I was schooled in educational regulations to help those that may not fit into a mold. I chose to be a surrogate parent for some of the other less abled parents that didn't understand what should be given to them, and volunteered in that role. And then some of our kiddos ended up with some health challenges that brought me loving science. I was raised in a very educated family. I have a brother who was a doctor. So traditional medicine was very well respected in our household, but my kiddos didn't fit the mold. So I had to navigate out and listen to that voice and take a step into alternatives as well as traditional, which gave me the wisdom on high-grade nutraceuticals and the backbone to talk to professional doctors that might have a different outlook.
Mm-hmm.
So our middle daughter at the time, her thyroid crashed. And she was young, so I didn't feel as though I should make a step into making a choice of being on a pharmaceutical for the whole lifetime. Talked with the endocrinologist, was responsible, got permission to go seek alternative solutions. And I say that was the beginning of the end, because that was my step into the ancient arts. Kevin, again, my support guy, I told him my idea of, we're going to research if there's another way. The endocrinologist said we have 3 to 6 months before we powwow again. So I hopped on a plane to Chicago and met some amazing people that were doing amazing things. And then I, you know me, Lockie, being the seeker, being the student, went and got schooled by them. And Kat's coming in because this is getting juicy.
I know. He's been activated for the last 2 minutes. So I'm just letting him know he can settle. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I flew on a plane, met some amazing people, and learned some techniques, one of which was navigating through how the hormone can be stuck in sympathetic mode. Talking to some individuals about, at that point, the broadcasting signal across America was changing. We had to go from regular TVs to high definition. So this is where we start to dabble into that digital field that I now coach and teach on. And I've been around that for over 2 decades, watching how that impacted our daughter's thyroid. It was a piece of the puzzle. Also learning about how to release stuck trauma in the energetic field that is then impacting your physical expression. So fast forward about 8 years after that is when Kid came into our lives. He was 3.5. We were in the middle of the aisle one day with him on cross ties, and my youngest daughter was with me. We were brushing him. And at that point, I had also opened up to being able to have telepathic communication with different kingdoms, different fields. Animals was one of them. And he said to me, you know that stuff you do to balance, the thyroid, the trauma, the energy? I said, yes. He said, you need to figure out how to do that for me and for horses. And that was the beginning of the process. So the skill set, the techniques I incorporate, developed between Kid and I for the horse world, but they mirror what I saw in the special ed world between telepathic communication, between beings that are nonverbal, that can't speak. And that's just powerful. There is evidence coming out in the human realm through some doctors and scientists now that are getting funding and grants to do some research with the autistic community that are nonverbal. So that's coming up to strengthen some of that telepathy that happens. Because I experienced that with our own daughter when she was about 2. And we were working with speech pathologists. She would telepathically know what I was thinking, saying. If I was sick, she would come up in the middle of the night and end up downstairs. Mom, you okay? As she grew older. And our speech pathologist would document because she would be having conversations with what was, quote unquote, imaginary friends. And I was not the mom that said, that's silly. We don't do that. What is that? What are you doing? I said, ooh, cool. Who are you talking to? And there's data that shows through a lot of the speech pathologists in the younger ages of children that they end up more intelligent when they're able to converse with that invisible field in their youth. It expands different quadrants of the brain.
It's incredible. It's bewildering. It's pioneering. It's potentially controversial. It's all of the things, and it's also none of that, because when you started to assist the community, it started happening very naturally. People would just hear you speak in the student community, and even you were not giving, advice unnecessarily, because you understand a boundary and you would never overstep that. You knew what was appropriate and what's inappropriate. It was just like the manner of your questioning and the line of thought and the way you process. And so people would reach out to you and just start organically talking to you. But the first thing you did was contact me and say, Lockie, this is happening. I want you to know that the students are finding their way to me, and I don't want to overstep any bounds. Do I have your blessing? Is everything okay? Which was so respectful. And I said, Christy, if you help people, by all means, do it. And so I said, of course, do it, but you know how I am. It takes me a while to trust. And so I was watching very, very closely what would happen.
That's the thread we weave, Lockie, together.
That's the thread we weave together. And so I was watching very closely how those early adopters went in with you and came out of you. When the first one came out of a session with you and I wrote to them, how was it? They said, oh my God. And I went, okay, very good. But it's still, I'm not I'm not drinking no Kool-Aid, okay? And then when the second one went in with you and came out and said, well, apparently she knew the exact date such and such happened to my horse, and there's no way she could have known that. And I went, could be a lucky guess. Thank you for telling me. Did it help you? Yes, it was so helpful. I went, all I mind is that she's helping people. I said, is it helping you feel better around your horse, more clear so that you can be responsible and take action with your horses? Oh, yes, I feel so much lighter. I'm able to go and do stuff with the horses. I said, fabulous. That's all I care about. Great. And when the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 10th, the 15th, and I've had you've been very patient with me, but I've had you in a holding pattern for 18 months.
Yes. I don't really count time, but
I think it's been longer.
Moment in time that we're supposed to connect.
Well, I've had you in a holding pattern for, I think, almost 18 months. And at this point, your work speaks for itself because you've developed, you've put in enough hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours now with, I can say, my students in my community, meaning those that have been attracted to my voice and my work and have stuck with it. You've put in hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I've not had one bad report, not one. And I'm the one that gets the bad reports. I'm the bad guy, right? But if we get bad reports, there because I'm the change maker, I'm the instigator, right? That's my role. But you haven't had a single bad report, but you also are very discerning. So the first thing you do with folks is have a very short and affordable discovery call where you explain what you do and how you do it and check to see if that resonates with people. And if they go, well, you go, no problem, it's not the right time, or this just isn't for you. But if it resonates with people, then you go next, because one of my founding principles of my work and my business is to serve the right people in the right way at the right time, and to never take people's money irresponsibly or needlessly for something that is not right for them. So that's extremely important to me. And it's important to you too. So you started working with it, and I thought, look, I've got more people than I know how to handle. I can't keep doing this on my own. I either need to downscale or I have to have a team. And so you came on board as a team member, and then very quickly Michelle came on board as a team member. And I think I just got extremely lucky, but also I put in a lot of work to have this kind of luck to find these kind of connections and to build rapport with the right people in the right time. But I really love our team, and I love the balance we're bringing to the people we serve. And I get sessions with you now.
Yes. And I'm going to actually tip my hat to you, right? And to Michelle, to say that many may view that you're lucky. Many may view that Michelle and I are lucky. Of course we are, but I remind the world that luck is when hard work, dedication, and passion meet. So each of us have been doing our journeys separately, and through precise convergence, we've met at the right time, and the horses are pulling us together.
That's right. That's right. Because as much as it's work through people, we're really here for the horses. That's really what we're focusing on, because we have to. Because if we're not with the horses, then it's not horsemanship anymore. It's something else. Mm-hmm. And there was apparently a hunger and a need in the community, in our community, for services that were new in the category of what you do.
Yes.
And you meet that
the unspoken.
To speak the unspoken. And I was dabbling in it, but it was stretching me in an area that was not distracting, but kind of taking me off course a little bit. And I have to captain the ship forwards, right? And so delegating to you that arm, that need, mm-hmm. that sail,
yes,
keeps everything clean and really frees me up to be more precise around my best use of my time and energies, and yours too. And we complement each other. I mean, all three of us continue to work with each other, and we mentor each other. You know, you are someone that I like to work with. I'm someone you like to work with. And with Michelle, it's the same way. It's actually though I'm leading it, it's a flat organization, if that makes sense to anyone. So there's that. I'd like to talk about energy.
Sure.
Tell the listeners the name that you have for your service and why you've chosen exactly those words for your service and why you haven't chosen another word such as healing, for example.
Well, some of the individuals that I first met many, many years ago were good coaches. They also were wise in the legal structure, at least around the world. And I feel this way very, very deeply. As much as you described, Christy, who are you? I'm an energetic being here on earth. Nobody heals anyone but the person that is in the vessel that needs to be, I call it balanced. Because if we go back to the vision of dis-ease, what is broken, it's out of ease. We are designed to be balanced beings, no matter what species you're in. And if we're not navigating with all of the kingdoms on earth, we're out of balance. So I incorporate an energetic balancing translation because we're looking into many, many precise and deep energetic platforms and dimensions that reside prior to even entering into your physical vessel.
Holy cow.
Right? That's it. That's all. Nothing big.
I love it.
And I truly don't look at it as a big deal because when people meet with me and we have a discovery call first off, I've taken some time to add some tangible slides. I come up with analogies that are very basic and human so that people can understand some very non-tangible abstract concepts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Einstein that says, in order to really be able to show that you know something, you have to be able to explain really expansive information in very small, understandable ways to everybody. So when I talk about energy, I just talk about conversations. I term it a translation because I am like an energetic translator in multiple dimensions at the same time. So I'm listening to what a horse is trying to say to also then get across to the human so the human can understand what the horse is trying to say and vice versa without anthropomorphizing. That is not on the table. This is tuning into the energetic frequencies that come forward that are out of balance.
We had a session the other day, and the way the sessions are, it's on Zoom or Pivo if someone's got them and people log in. And you can do it without the horses present, but it's great to do it with the horses present because if there's any changes in the horses, then we can see that in real time.
It's a great way to teach the humans.
Right. And so we had a session the other day. I was down at the hay feeder. It was a lovely day. I've always worked with you on good weather days somehow so far. Oki my youngest, kept walking up and kind of getting in the camera saying, my turn, my turn, my turn. And he's in our face anyway. But then we started working on him after we went through the others. And then he went and positioned himself out in an open space in alignment with Sani, facing due north. And it was the first time since he's been in my life that he hasn't been all up in my grill. And I love horses in my personal space. I'm not one of those to say, get out, come here so I can hit you. I'm like, come. If you're safe in my personal space, I'm safe in your personal space. Come. And, he's very cuddly and he's very gentle and he's also quite disciplined about his affection. So he knows to be cautious with people and not hurt us, etc. He seems to know all of this at almost 3. But he is usually up close. This was the first time since I've had him where he held space on his own, in presence with me, in alignment with the others, and I was able to see all of him. And you were taking me through some very specific elements about him.
Yes.
And as we were doing that, he lifted his head up straight to the sky and stretched his neck out. And then his back leg went into full arabesque and he stretched out the back leg and lick and chew and a shake. And he went, like something moved in him. Coincidence? Maybe. But all I know is there are a lot of coincidences with Kristy Foley.
Let's take a break. So I guess you're wondering, how do I get in touch with Kristy? Because this sounds like something that I could really benefit from and that my horses could benefit from. And I have to tell you that that might not be true, but that also might be true. Well, in the show notes of this episode, and the show notes is just the written description of this episode, wherever you're listening to it, I've dropped a link there to not only a description about Christy and what she does with us, but where you can actually book her. Christy begins with all of our clients with a discovery call first. This is a very accessible and quick service where she presents to you what she does and how she does it, and essentially asks you if that feels in alignment with you at this time. If not, if it feels like you're just not ready or it's not for you or you don't sign up for that, then there is no pressure to continue. But if you go through that discovery call and you and Christy decide, yep, this is for us, then you can proceed into her second service and she will guide you all the way through that. At this stage, Christy has delivered hundreds of hours worth of services within Emotional Horsemanship. And so I'm really happy to firmly and confidently recommend her here. Anyone who feels like their energy is out of balance, that their horse's energy is out of balance, and they would like to supplement their horsekeeping, their horse care, and their horsemanship with something that feels a little bit left of center, an alternative therapy, alternative modality, Christy is here to help you, and I can fully recommend what she does. And with that, let's return back to our conversation. Yes. And he stretched out the back leg and lick and chew and a shake, and he went, like something moved in him. Coincidence? Maybe. But all I know is there are a lot of coincidences with Kristy Foley.
And we break that down into it coincides.
Coincides. Yes, it coincides. And so it was lovely. And if nothing else, it's a beautiful, relaxing holiday for the soul to be around your horses and have Christy in your ear. That's how I felt it. It's like a holiday for my soul. And if it helps the horses, great. If I see no change, then no harm, no foul. But it does feel lovely. And that's really important. We can't train feel into horse people that don't even know how to feel good.
Right. Well, and one of the gifts I bring forward to the horse community, because if people are not aware, yes, we're told and science shows us that horses see best. They have beautiful vision and they think in images. But again, we're all unique beings, and that is not always the strength of 100% of the horses. So some of them actually hear frequencies better than they see. Or what happens to the horse that's blind that's still functioning beautifully?
Mm-hmm.
They're using their additional senses. So I can bring to the table a choice for the horse to choose, how can I speak my language through Christy? Some will show me colors. Some will send me an image. Some will be very expressive and show me in my own body what is not correct.
Mm.
And others will just send me a paragraph like you read in a book. And that's where the humans and I and the horse are always having conversations together. And if the human is engaging, it's their role to discern. Does this make sense? You know your horse best. This is what the horse is sharing with me. And because I'm translating, we're here on planet Earth. So we are filtering information. No matter how great we are and the boundaries we set and how clear we choose to be, we're still filtering.
Mm-hmm.
We're not perfect yet.
Mm.
My husband and I have a saying, nobody's perfect. We're Mr. and Mrs. Perfect in jokes. We are not perfect. If we were perfect, we'd be dead. We'd be in a different dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So in having conversations, translating energy, there are different levels of discernment that need to come in. But my platform is to allow the horse to pick the language they speak best on, because I have that skill set.
Mm. It's, again, new type of horse work, new type of
services, new options for people, that if that
Yes.
there are so many ways horses can be in our lives that are beautiful and healthy and good and ethical, and woe betide us to discount them. It's and listen, if I want to know what's happening with the sun or with space weather, I just say, Christy, what on earth is going on today? And you're like, well, there was an M-class flare yesterday at 11:36, and you've got to know what's happening around this grid line, and something's happening seismically over there. I mean, you're not just wafting around. You study this. You've got your eyes on your resources, and you're extremely ahead of that curve. And it's really fascinating to start to take a deeper look at these things, not to get too deep in the weeds about it, because I still call myself a horse trainer, right? But all I know is, again, you're helping people and you're helping me.
Also, Lockie, through science, empathy, and feel, right?
Right. So that's
I get
part
very
of the
excited
principles.
now that science is catching up to some of these that are impacting, where there's heliobiology now as a term, where scientists or doctors are now studying the impacts of flares to see how they impact the human population. And they're labeling terms like solar sensitive because they're seeing physical issues in alignment with these increased flares. So science is catching up.
It's wonderful. And I'm so excited for the future and to see where this all goes. And I'm very glad to know you.
Yes, I'm so glad to know you. Can't imagine not knowing you.
Well, thank you. I'm very glad to know you. And I think the people we work for feel the same way.
Yes.
And I'll be doing a clinic at your barn that you bought at in May 2025.
Yes.
So you can find all the details of that on our website. Because it is we work together. You're part of the team, and I present you as such. And you seek me for counsel. I seek you for counsel. It's how we work.
And we had a beautiful experience, actually. Was it just November of last year when I traveled to New York?
October. So yes,
October.
It was, sorry, that clinic was already May 2024. So that's going on a year ago.
Oh my gosh, it was May. Yeah.
Time
See how
runs.
fast time goes. Which was beautiful to be able to be at Stacy's barn, where she's supposed to do a few times.
Nashville.
But I thought I'd bring this up, this particular experience, because we are virtual, you and I. And when I was at that clinic, I was there as an auditor to continue my skill set. And as I sat there, and the clinic had its participants with its horses, day one, I'm in the back corner with my daughter, who was also auditing, and the horses come in, and I respect space energetically and psychically always.
Right.
But I was now part of the emotional horsemanship team. So my energy had new layers of boundaries. And so the horses that came in knew that they could tell me this, that, and the other thing. So day one, when they were introducing themselves, all the horses started showing me things energetically. And I was taking my notes to be a student. But after the clinic that night, I texted you and I said, do you want to know what the horses said to me? Or like, am I just a student? What do we do? And there was one horse in particular, without mentioning names, to respect both the caretaker of the horse and the horse. But it was a mare who came in screaming to talk with me. And so day two was when you pulled me over and you said, come help this horse and human. And the horse had some significant energetic trauma related to some physical issues that she read I had a match for, because I had also physically experienced those myself. And this is where we get into really cool stuff, because nobody knew it.
Yeah.
The horse knew it.
Yeah. And in the preclinic intake form, where we ask lots of questions, this particular participant did not disclose exactly the precise diagnosis for this horse and what was going on with them physically. They said, well, there's something going on. It was vague. And I shared that document with the team because I like to hear your thoughts prior to going into a clinic. So there was elements shared, but this particular diagnosis was not disclosed with me or with you. But when you were present with them, you were able to highlight it, inquire,
Yes.
and be validated of its presence.
Yes. And I raise this as a story too to share, because I have been with you for a while. And some people may be thinking, well, we haven't seen her. What's going on? Part of what I do is so sacred that I haven't yet chosen to record sessions, to share that. But
It's
the people
deeply
at
personal.
that clinic were physically there. So it was the right moment for them to be participants of observation. But that was still not discussed. And even in this discussion, I'm respecting the sacredness of the horse and the human, because that matters, because we're working through energetics that can lie in the emotional, the mental, the physical, the digital, the spiritual fields.
The legal fields also always ask for consent
Absolutely.
before things are recorded and published, which we do.
Absolutely.
And it's important what you're doing. It's important what you're doing. And again, one of the reasons why we have been together for so long, and I'm sort of bringing you out now,
Yes.
publicly on my podcast, which anyone in the world can listen to for free,
Sure.
is because I wanted to be really confident in what was going on here.
Yes.
I am not interested in selling no snake oil. I've met some charlatans, some unscrupulous people who said I do this, that, and the other shamanically, and then I met with them and they were just barking. Barking, not to be disrespectful, but my experience of them was extremely problematic for me. That doesn't mean they're problematic for everyone. Having said that, to be fair, it doesn't take much to have a problem with me, but that's another storyline. But anyway, we're working on that. But I wanted to be really sure that I could trust not only what you were doing, trust who you were, but more importantly, trust the outcomes with the horses and the people we serve, because I want to be very careful about my recommendations, especially when we're partnering closely. So
yes,
having you in this rehearsal and trial, and allowing it to not continue or continue. But towards the end of last year in Homecoming 2, you really stepped up to the plate and proved yourself sufficient to me to say, okay, yeah, we're going forwards with this. So here you are.
I know, it's fabulous. I get so excited because I am constantly checking in with the collective horse herd around the globe to also make sure that this is where I am to be for now, because I know that part of my soul journey, we all have lots of them, but part of my soul journey is to support the horses' track of how they are choosing to help humans evolve. And we're in very much changing times on many, many different layers. And the horses are a part of this. And this is where I am supposed to be currently. Absolutely. And as we say, long may it continue.
Long may it continue.
The horses are guiding all of us, you, myself, and I feel comfortable saying Michelle. The three of us are horse first, and they're deep in each of our hearts. And we don't necessarily say that in a manner that, sure, we have heart horses, but they are the blood that beats our heart.
Right.
For their well-being. And I don't mean just Kid. Of course, he's our heart family horse. Absolutely. But I mean all of them. All of them.
They are the first thought in my mind when I get up in the morning, and they are the last thought in my mind when I go to bed at night. And that's going to be with me, I'm fairly confident, forever. Whether I work with horses or not, I'll sell fruit if I have to make a living. It's not even about making a living. It's about, So Christy, I'm going to take us through the final 3 questions that I ask on the pod.
Sure.
Muck out with me, Christy.
Yes. One thing, just one thing I can muck out, right? You can just pick
You
one.
can pick a few if you like,
Yes.
because it's a mucky stable sometimes. You know,
Yes.
it's
Mhm.
muck out with me.
So and you're aware of this as one of my things that I hope to help muck out is to bring more level of respect to some of the terminology and techniques that we incorporate when we're adding energetics. A lot of it I bring in to teach on where we're working with frequencies, which are scientifically proven. There's data from NASA, which will tell us that the Earth itself releases megahertz daily, and we can track through heart rate variability monitors and other scientific tools that energy is traveling between one being and another. So just to help bring some respect to the language of energy, whether it's through musical tones, vibrational crystals, other forms of frequencies, and conversations that happen through telepathy, through a field that is higher in consciousness. So for me, that's one of the layers that needs to be mucked out. And I hope to do that with grace and dignity.
I remember a couple of memories I'd like to share with you. One happened today, and one happened over 15 years ago. 15 years ago, I was sitting in the break room at the Tanzakademie Zurich in Switzerland, having lunch. And there was a mean girl at school. No judgment against her. She's on a different path, but she was mean to everyone, but especially to herself, I should say. She was very cruel to herself. But often her behavior was outrageous. She came into the room and said something outrageous. And I locked eyes with my close friends, two of them, Sophie and Laura, across the room. And I looked at them, and they looked at me, and then I looked at them again, and they looked at me. We had a whole conversation in nuance and detail about that situation.
Absolutely.
In respect of this person, because we didn't want to call this person out because we understood they were in pain. But they were giving all of us pain too. It's like they walk in and be like, here, pain for everyone. You get pain and you get pain. It's like Oprah, everyone gets pain. Great, because I'm in pain. And when I locked eyes with them and had this, I'm not going to say telepathic because there was body language involved, but not much body language because we were in a social environment where too much wink, wink, nudge, nudge would have been seen as bitchy and mean and not good for us socially because we all lived together in the same boarding house. So we had to be very, very discreet. And my face had to be inscrutable, which is extremely hard for me to do. But I had a conversation with my friends about it, and we talked about that conversation afterwards in great detail. It's like, you had yes, I felt, and there was the years later, I was having a really bad Wednesday, but I looked at the contents of my life and everything was going well. And I called one of these friends on that Wednesday. I was in the bus on the way home. I said, Sophie, what's going on today? She said, I had a huge fight with my mum last week and I'm not speaking. And I love her mum. I've had Christmas with these people. So there are threads. I'm connected. Still talk to her mum to this day. I've actually got a painting from her mum on my wall.
I love it.
I said, Sophie, we are somehow intertwined. You have to tell me when you're having a bad day because it's affecting me over here. My mum is the same. When I got my job at the Polish National Ballet, I called. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. Mum picked up the phone and said, you got a job. Should I have been awake? When mum's got anxiety back home, she knows I'm going through something. When she's calm, she knows everything's fine with me. That's how it works.
Well, and they call that mother's intuition.
Mother's intuition. It's a thing.
Term. It's not just mothers.
It's not just mothers. And it's a skill set that we can expand, grow, and tap into on a regular basis. The other thing, that was more than two memories, but today, it's a busy day. I'm actually recording 5 episodes for the podcast today. It's not work. This is just joy, basically.
Good.
You're number 4. and Michelle's number 5.
Awesome.
I'm out on the farm and Bree's taking care of them, and I'm making some recordings actually. And Sunny from the other side of the farm looks up, steps off the hay, turns and looks at me and gives me that look. He gives me that look. He said, "Do you need me? I see you've got the camera out. Do you need a demonstration?" And I said, "If you want." He said, "No, I need you to want it. Because if you want it, I'm in."
Love it.
If you want it, I'm in. But there's some really good hay going today. So you've got to really want it. And then I'll be in. But I need you to know I'll be in with one mind on the hay because we're in between rain fronts. Sure. And my body budget is ravenous. The furnace is burning right now. So I've got serious work to do on the hay. I've got serious work to do on the hay today. Weather's good. You're out. You look in good shape today. So, but if you need me, I've got time for you. That's what he said to me from across the farm.
Yes.
And I'm from across the farm going, if you want, you can come, but I really want you to choose it. And he's like, I don't want it that much.
Yes.
You've got to tell me, I really, really would need you here. Because if you need me here, I'm there with you, Lockie.
Absolutely.
And I said, I tell you what, I'll make it easier. I'll go get a halter and get you. And he went, all right. And he turned and he went back to the hay. He's like, I'll be eating hay. You get me when you need me. So I said, I'm not sure what I'm filming now or what's going to happen next or if the rain's going to open up. So I tell you what, when I'm there with the halter, that's when I need you. And when I met him with the halter, the head was already up off the hay and the nose is already in the halter. And then he's walking with me with flow. And then when it was over, we filmed something. And when it was over, it was over. This full conversation with him. Now that to some people sounds like, what kind of mental illness has Lockie got? Exactly what medication? I haven't sipped alcohol for 6 weeks. I've never taken drugs in my life. I wake up in the morning and I'm already having an existential experience. Living is enough for me. And living and working alongside Kristy Foley, all I can say, it just turns taps on in my brain that are like perfumed water.
I mean, even for me here, right? Because living with Kevin, what's a day in the life with Christy? Because you asked that with my daughter when you saw her in New York. And
right.
To share one more story that's real prevalent. Because even for me, sometimes I'm like, wow, this seriously happens. You know, I even pinch myself. It was when our horse was actually, we're the type of family where we relocated and bought a house to be next to our horse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we moved real estate. It was a good financial investment from my husband's perspective, but it was my heart piece.
Right.
And a piece of me was like, wow, oh my God, this is going to be great. He wants me to live next door to him. This is awesome. Well, I was living next door to him to expand my education. One evening in the summer, I had already been over visiting with him. And we were literally really close, like a 3-minute hop over the fence and you're in the stall. You're visiting. But a storm was coming in and it was dark and ominous and really going to be violent. And it was in the middle of the summer. And I said to Kevin, I just need to run over. I had like dinner on. I have a feeling I just need to run over and just check in with him. This doesn't feel right. And he was like, okay, all right, here we go. I went over there. A friend of mine was there and her horse was stalled in a different location. Kid was in the back. And I was talking to her, but I felt uneasy. I actually stopped my conversation and I said, I need to go check on Kid. Something's wrong. I'll be right back. When I got back to the back of the barn, there were old-fashioned glass window panes on a window that would open and close. And there were 6 panes that had crashed and all the glass was inside his stall. And he was standing in it. And I don't even want to think what might have happened if I didn't listen to that nudge and come and be with him and clean it up and fix it. And wind was circling everywhere. It was like our own mini tornado. Churning forces came in. But when I got back to the house, it was just another layer of validation for Kevin. Not that he needs it, but, yep. And I thanked him, for believing in me. And even for me, so there's those moments, right, that just reinforce that you have to pay attention to those unseen layers of information coming through.
It's love. It's the love that we have. Both of us are blessed to have, and Michelle too, all three
Yes.
of us are really blessed with very supportive, loving,
Absolutely.
in my opinion, healthy partnerships. And I've met Kevin and I've met Michelle's
Yeah.
spouse also. No one's
Yes.
met Mickey yet. Mickey's my
I will.
my
I will in the
secret weapon.
flesh.
You will.
I will get there.
But it's really that love that we have in our back corner that's irrevocable, that allows us to show up the way we show up.
Yes, because we're fully present. Yes.
So long as I'm not overworking. Let me go to my next question, which
Yes.
is the tides of change, right?
Mhm.
So I used to ask, how are you contributing? I think we've discussed how you're contributing to the tides of change, but I'd like to have you, if you can, define in your terms the tides of change we're experiencing in the horse industry right now.
Yes.
And with horses, not only the industry, but horses and humans as a storyline through history. What's happening,
Right.
with us now?
And I feel that although I'm contributing how you've described today, which is, we'll say, assisting in the professional realm, I also hold near and dear to my heart within our local communities, because a lot of our interactions are virtual across the globe. So I also feel that it's important for us to be walking our talk. And so for me, I really value the farm owners, because so far I still am a boarder at various locations with Kid as a horse. So I've experienced multiple boarding locations, and I still attempt to find the best that I can find at the current moment. So in changing, he is now in a location that could be viewed as quite different by many, but he's on a track system with paddocks, with stalls when the weather is crazy, with an indoor, with an outdoor, with nonstop hay, with supplements, with caring staff, which in our region, February has decided to be the month of snow with wind chill factors and blustery days. So I honor and support the staff. I honor and support the farm owner. I am compassionate with what they're up against, but I'm brave enough to also advocate and speak ahead when I see something that I think might need to be shifted or changed to support the horse. And currently in the location I'm at, we're open to conversation. Many locations aren't open to conversation, but I'm not putting a blind eye to what farm owners are against with cost and efficiency. But I feel we must be community. Help where we're at survive. So I'm choosing to drive over 2.5 hours round trip daily to support that farm, because that's the best I found. And I went and viewed a lot in our region. And then I hope to be able to help educate more and more for people to look at their footprint and see how they can make it even better and more cost effective, but a better area for the horses with what we can work with. So how we invest our monetary income, I'm a product of the product. I'm supporting local farms where I pick our vegetables, local stores that source great things, investing in books and education that match the feel of what is me to my essence.
Boarding barns are closing, particularly in North America, as I understand it, left, right, and center, because it's become untenable. The rising costs of horsekeeping has not matched step with the willingness of owners to match that investment so that these facilities can keep their doors open. Usually, most boarders understand how hard the work is. And I think on the whole, boarders get it and are exceptionally grateful for the team of caregivers and the facilitators and the boarders and the landowners that allow them to invest in a hobby and a passion with their horse. But every now and then there are people who don't. And in my conversation with boarding managers, when it doesn't go well, it's been very, very difficult for them to experience that, because they're here to help, they're here to serve. That doesn't say all boarding owners are perfect, that we're all flawed beings. And I agree with you that we need to be looking at ways that we can keep the horse front and center in our horse keeping at all times. I mean, to be honest with you, as I've said in our mentorship, because you're in one of my mentorships right
Yes.
now, horse keeping and horse care is a big blind spot for the industry because there's no dedicated professionals really who are focusing on that and that alone. The vets dabble, the trainers dabble, usually begrudgingly. The hoof care providers, if they comment on it at all, they comment on it through the hoof care lens. But we don't necessarily have someone who's teaching people how to horse keep, how to be a good zookeeper of these large animals and exactly what they need. It's an enormous blind spot, and usually the choices end up being convenience driven. If I go to another horse facility that has tens and tens of acres and the horses are in small runs,
Yes.
I'm not going to lose my mind, but it does blow my mind when you've got more and you're not using it. There's not an inch on my farm that is not thought of and put to use. Not an inch, because I haven't got much space.
And I've come to the point where when you attempt to educate and individuals that are decision makers for certain properties will refer to certain locations on the farm, whether they're outdoor or indoor storage units for the horse, as bathrooms. Like they're in a bathroom all day. And they have, multiple acres, 10, 20, 30, 100 acres. That is where then I can no longer invest my income because they're not putting horse first.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that might be fabulous, because I am compassionate to their bottom line and they may not have the money to rearrange fencing, but we could maybe as a group of individuals start to talk to the agricultural communities in our states to then rearrange how the grants are spent. Because many farms can get grants for soil erosion. Why not allow them to get grants for reconfiguring their fencing to then not impact the land as much with better track systems and paddocks for those that need different setups? So it's a blend of everything. And when they have that much acreage, Lockie, it's doable. But many of them are strapped financially or stuck in their head. They have an emotional block where they just can't see through, or maybe they just can't be that one that's a trendsetter or changing something that's been done for generations.
Right, because often to change, it feels like an affront to their ancestors, to their family.
Yes.
Sometimes there are things that can be enmeshed there that are really tricky to navigate.
Yes.
That's a really good distinction, that the tide of change rests in improving horsekeeping. Whether we ride or not, train or not, if we keep horses, we need to keep horses, and preferably not in a toilet.
I mean, knock on wood, but our horse was the type that when he lived in his first location, he would colic multiple times every season. And I thought that was a thing, right? Knock on wood. And then with adding different layers of professionals, Chinese vet, traditional vet, sports vet, body workers, massage therapists, cranial sacral therapists, nutritionists, using my own wisdom, got a platform of information and started learning, then I was able to see, the environment could kill you. We're out of here.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. The environment could kill you. We're out of here.
Yes. And I certain we saved his life.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. He's living the life of his dreams now.
He is. He is so fulfilled.
Yes.
He's like a filled balloon.
He is.
Christy,
when your horse is happy, you're happy, right?
Well, what's home to you, Christy?
Right.
That's
well,
my
Kevin,
last question.
Again,
what is
Kevin
home
years
to you?
ago got me a sign, home is where the horse is. And we got that as a vision because we had a vision to have him close to us. We bought a farmhouse to be close to him. And then we chose, for us, it wasn't a good match. We relocated him. But our heart is where he is. And my family is so loving and supportive that they allow me willingly to go be with him daily. If it aligns, that's my goal. 7 out of 7, but 5 out of 7 sometimes with winter weather. Home is for me where my heart is congruent We incorporate kid as part of our soul family. And so home is where my family is because they matter the most to me. Health, family, and wealth has been my motto, and in that order. Because without health, you're no good to your family. And without a family, what does money matter?
Thank you, Christy, for being here.
Thank you, Lockie.
Long may it continue.
You know I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you too.
And me.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye. You've been listening to the Emotional Horsemanship podcast. That was my guest, Kristy Foley, and I have been your host, such as it is, Lockie Phillips. If you would like to book Kristy Foley for an energetic balancing and translation, you can do so through the link in the show notes, or you can navigate to emotionalhorsemanship.com, visit the private services page, and scroll down until you find out where Christy lives. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will consider to join us next time. Until then, take care.
Make this one count.